I think by now, almost everyone has come to terms with the fact that the new Star Wars trilogy was a bit of a train wreck. And I know, this has already been discussed to death on YouTube and the internet, and I'm not here just to rehash what everyone else has already said. Actually, my biggest problem with the sequel trilogy is something which I think has been slightly overlooked. I see a lot of people talking about the problems with, amongst other things, Rey's character, the return of Palpatine, the crazy plot, the weird, inconsistent tone, but surprisingly, less discussion centered on the character of Kylo Ren. And this is interesting to me because I always thought Kylo Ren was the best part of the trilogy and the biggest missed opportunity to make something truly great. Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, however you want to think about him, was abysmally handled, and I find it so frustrating. To be honest, the new movies really should have been about something completely separate to the Skywalkers and the Empire. That would have been my preference, just a totally new time period, new setting. But if they really had to go with the angle they did, the trilogy should have been much more focused on just Kylo Ren himself. They could have done what I also think the prequels failed to do, but still did an infinitely better job than Disney did. And that's make a compelling 3-part movie series about the tragic fall and eventual redemption of a character. So, what I want to do in this video is take a look at the failed character of Kylo Ren, how Disney forgot their basic writing lessons when crafting his character and character arc, the negative consequences to the rest of the movies as a direct result of this failure, and finally, something I haven't done before, which is to propose my own rewrite for how they could have written Kylo Ren and the sequel trilogy better. I'll mark the chapters in this video, so if you want to just skip ahead to the rewrite, you can do that. But I'd definitely recommend listening to the first part as well, as it will help you understand the approach I'm taking with the rewrite and the kind of mindset I'm approaching it in. So let's just jump straight in then with the first part of this video, the failed character arc of Kylo Ren. There's a writing technique which I think is useful here to frame why Kylo Ren failed as a character. Whenever you write a character, you can look at them as being comprised of wants and needs. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this here and explaining it, as plenty of other people have already discussed this better than I can. But basically, at the heart of every compelling character is the tension between what they want versus what they need. Surface level wants drive a character's conscious actions, whereas deeper psychological needs shape their true journey. And the key here is that a character's wants may not be aligned with their needs. For example, a character may want to be rich, whilst not realizing that what they actually need is to have a true friend. And this misalignment between their wants and needs results in suffering and conflict until they finally realize what their true need is and align their wants to it, ultimately achieving happiness. Now, this is a bit of a simplification, and you don't always have to follow this formula, obviously, but it is a very helpful technique when it comes to writing character arcs, as in essence, this gives you the template for the arc, as the character is forced to change and grow in order to align their wants to their needs. Unfortunately, when we look at Kylo Ren, we see his character fails at both of these fundamentals. He has unclear wants that seem to shift and change on a dime, and his needs are even more obscure. Let's start with his wants. What does Kylo Ren want? Well, in The Force Awakens, he seems to want to emulate Darth Vader and prove himself worthy of the dark side.
And I will finish what you started.
Okay, I mean, fair enough, this is fine. But then this motivation seems to be completely dropped, and in The Last Jedi, he tells Rey he wants to let the past die and rule the galaxy with her. Okay, I guess he just likes Rey or something. I don't think Darth Vader would approve, but okay, I guess Kylo doesn't care about that anymore because he wants to just let the past die now. Anyway, Rey obviously rejects him because beyond kind of liking him back, she has no real reason to accept his offer. Then, in the final movie, Rise of Skywalker, Kylo still wants to rule the galaxy, but now he decides to serve Palpatine? Oh, okay, I thought he wanted to let the past die. Did he lie to Rey, or is he still upset that she rejected him? Oh, but now he's turned against Palpatine, and actually, okay, now he doesn't even want to be evil anymore. I mean, seriously, what is happening here? Why is he acting so crazy? His motivations keep shifting, and it's hard to keep track of. And then if we look at his needs, these are even more confusing. Remember, the purpose of the needs is to drive the character's changing wants, as their wants gradually align with what they truly need and form the basis of a character arc. However, looking at Kylo Ren, this is totally absent. Is he seeking validation from a father figure after the perceived failures of Han Solo? Does he need to escape the burden of his legacy, being both a Skywalker and a Solo? Is he searching for genuine connection in a life full of manipulation? The trilogy raises all of these possibilities, but doesn't commit to any of them. Without clear needs driving his changing wants, Kylo's actions feel like script-mandated switches rather than genuine character evolution. His dramatic moments, speaking to Vader's mask, killing Han, smashing his helmet, become theatrical gestures without emotional weight because we don't understand what he truly needs. We can actually look at Darth Vader in the original trilogy as an example of this done right. His want is clear. He wants to turn Luke to the dark side and rule the galaxy as father and son. But his deeper need, which he doesn't even realize until the end, is to reconnect with his son and redeem himself as a father and as a Jedi. This misalignment between want and need is what creates compelling conflict. When he finally realizes his true need in Return of the Jedi, choosing to save Luke rather than serve the Emperor, it feels earned and powerful. And this isn't just nitpicking about character development. When you don't establish clear character needs, it creates a domino effect that undermines everything else in the story. And nowhere is this more evident than in Kylo's relationship with Rey, which we'll look at now. The relationship between Rey and Kylo is actually one of the most interesting things in the trilogy to me. I really like the moments they have together. Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley have genuine chemistry in their scenes. But without understanding Kylo's true needs, their dynamic lacks deeper meaning and ends up being another frustrating waste of potential. I mean, just think about it. Why are these characters drawn to each other? Is it because they both desperately need belonging? Because they share the burden of powerful legacies? Because they represent what the other could become? Just like with Kylo, the trilogy never decides. And this indecision becomes worse still because a large part of the conflict between these two characters is what's meant to be a key pillar of the trilogy. But it just feels hollow and flimsy. To have effective character conflict, opposing wants should emerge from conflicting needs. The MCU actually did this really well in Captain America: Civil War. The conflict between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers emerges from clearly established needs and values. Tony's need for control comes from his guilt over creating Ultron and the lives lost in Sokovia.
You just fight for yourself. Who's going to avenge my son, Stark?
Steve's need for independence stems from his experience with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s corruption and his growing disillusionment with the establishment.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be.
Their conflict feels genuine, and so therefore it feels impactful. And most importantly, we can see it coming, because we understand the difference between the two characters, and how their differing values will inevitably lead to conflict. But what about Rey and Kylo? Their conflicts feel random, driven by whatever the current movie needs rather than by who they are as characters. In Force Awakens, they're enemies. In The Last Jedi, they're drawn together through their Force bond, and Kylo asks Rey to join him. And then in The Rise of Skywalker, they're, what exactly? Fighting, attracted to each other, destined to oppose each other. The trilogy can't decide because it never established clear character needs to drive their relationship. And remember, this is a domino effect. So this problem extends beyond just Rey to Kylo's entire conflict with the Resistance. Why does he even stay with the First Order? What does he believe about power and justice? What kind of order is he trying to create, and what's his end goal? I actually have no idea what Kylo believes in. When he becomes the Supreme Leader after killing Snoke, it should be a huge moment, the apprentice finally taking power, or the first steps towards redemption. But it falls flat because we don't understand what he wants to do with that power. His actions feel disconnected from any coherent character journey because we don't know what he's really seeking. So, in short, the fundamental problem with Kylo Ren's character comes from three key issues: inconsistent wants, unclear needs, and the resulting failed narrative conflicts. The funny thing here is, well, funny and frustrating, is that all the ingredients for a compelling character were there. The weight of legacy, the pull between light and dark, and Adam Driver's fantastic performance. But without clear wants and needs driving his actions, it all falls apart. Normally, I'd end the video here, but as I mentioned at the start, I actually want to take it one step further today and think about how we could actually fix Kylo Ren and give him a proper character arc. Now, I'm not making any claims to be a better writer than the actual people involved or anything like that, but I think by applying some of the lessons and concepts we've spoken about, we can make some massive improvements. So let's take a look now at how to fix Kylo Ren. For my proposed rewrite, I'm going to try not to stray too far away from the original vision of the script. I think it'll be more interesting to see how the new trilogy could have still told a really engaging, impactful story without just completely changing it into something completely different. So let's do it. I'm going to structure the rewrite into 3 acts. And as I said, we'll broadly follow the vision that Kylo Ren is a character who fell to the dark side but is ultimately redeemed. But this time, we'll try to give him a proper character arc that is driven by clear wants and needs. We'll also be focusing much more on his character, since, as I said at the start, I firmly believe that the trilogy should have been much more Ben Solo-centric. To make this more fun, I'm not going to reveal what I consider his wants and needs until the end. So follow along with my plot outline and see if you can guess them for yourself. Then I'll reveal my thought process after Act 3. Let's start now with Act 1, the weight of legacy. We start with a Ben Solo who is struggling with a crushing inheritance, the combined legacy of the Skywalkers and the Solos. We see him training at Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Temple, but his Force abilities are frustratingly weak, and he's constantly struggling whilst other students surpass him. We see students whispering about how the mighty Skywalker blood could have produced such weakness. Han and Leia attempt to reassure Ben by telling him he doesn't have to be a Jedi and there are other paths he could take, or just other ways to be strong. But this only reinforces Ben's sense of inadequacy. Luke also tries and fails to relate to Ben. As for all of the struggles that Luke faced, this is one thing he never had to deal with. Snoke then appears as a mentor figure, someone who finally seems to understand. He begins to teach Ben, subtly suggesting to him that the light side is holding him back, and gradually introducing dark side teachings under the guise of alternative techniques. Ben's powers do grow stronger as a result of Snoke's teachings. The climax of Act 1 is some kind of catalyzing incident, perhaps failing to save someone with light side powers, like maybe even Han or Leia, or maybe Luke himself is revealed to have dabbled with the dark side, or maybe even Ben uses his dark side powers to do something good, but is confronted by Luke about it. As you can tell, I'm not 100% sure about what this could be, but anyway, the outcome is it confirms Ben's belief that the traditional Jedi path is flawed, and he makes a conscious decision to embrace the dark side, believing it's the only way to become who he's meant to be. This culminates in a tragic event at Luke's temple, similar to the original trilogy, but this time is not just a misunderstanding, It's a deliberate choice born of years of manipulation. We then move on to Act 2, the Hollow Crown. This act follows the rise of Kylo Ren. He now wields significant dark side power, but he's haunted by the cost and conflicted by his past choices. There's a growing suspicion deep inside him that he chose wrong, but he is too proud to admit it, and instead tries to double down, becoming increasingly brutal in an attempt to prove that his path is the right one. This is the point where I'd either introduce Rey or have her come into her own as a Force user. I know a lot of people call her a Mary Sue, and I don't want to get bogged down in that in this video, so all I'll say here is that we'll keep her prodigal talent from the original trilogy. Her natural ability triggers his deepest insecurities, reminding him of everything he couldn't do. Since I really like their Force connection, we'll keep that, but this time he views her with a mixture of attraction and hatred, complicating their dynamic. He responds to Rey's talent and power with increasing violence, becoming increasingly obsessed with proving himself to be the stronger one. The "you're nothing" speech he gives her now comes from a projection of his own deep fears, and his desire to kill Snoke becomes not just about freedom, but also proving his superiority. The climax of Act 2 is Kylo's powers failing him at a crucial moment, perhaps saving Rey or fighting alongside her. Now, this loss of powers could either be through some kind of injury or Force backlash, or perhaps Snoke reveals that this dark side power was always borrowed and never truly his. However it happens, the important thing is that he loses his powers, and Kylo Ren is therefore left broken, powerless, and alone. Everything he feared becoming. And it's in this state we move towards the third and final act, the long road to nowhere. Alone and powerless, Kylo Ren is discarded and left to face a world that hasn't forgotten his crimes. People whisper about the fallen Skywalker heir, saying it would have been better if he was never born. Every conversation carries the weight of his family's disappointment. Kylo falls into a deep despair, hiding away from both the First Order and the Resistance. His Force connection with Rey is still there, but now he's trying to shut it out. Shame is his constant companion. Rey alone sees his struggle, feeling his pain through their connection. She keeps trying to help him, but Kylo keeps rejecting her pity, seeing it as further proof of his weakness. Her persistence eventually breaks through his walls, and she helps him to see that being naturally gifted doesn't make her better, just different. Kylo slowly begins to realize that his obsession with power blinded him. He sees how his father and Luke's strength came from their heart, not their use of the Force. He begins to understand that strength comes in many forms, and that being worthy isn't just about being powerful. At the climax of Act 3, a crucial moment arrives where either the Resistance or Rey are in danger, again, something along those lines, and Kylo chooses to help, despite his lack of power, despite knowing that it will mean certain death for him. He makes a difference not through power, but through choice. He ultimately sacrifices himself, dying unforgiven by most. Rey alone understands and forgives him, and his final moments are peaceful, finally accepting not only himself, but also responsibility for the choices he made. He dies not as a powerful Skywalker, but as Ben Solo who made one right choice. And that's my rewrite, my vision of how Kylo Ren could have been written differently, but still reflecting the same themes of the original. The story becomes not just about redemption, but about finding worth beyond power. A journey which I think is particularly resonant and important in the Star Wars universe, where Force ability often equals destiny. With my rewrite, Ben Solo's final understanding that he can be worthy without being powerful provides, at least to me, a powerful counter-narrative to the usual Star Wars hero's journey. I made his death unforgiven by all except Rey because I think it makes his sacrifice more meaningful. He chooses right, not for redemption in the eyes of others, but because it's the right thing to do. So, what do you guys think of my rewrite? Did you like it? Do you think it's better or worse than what actually happened? If you remember the challenge I set at the beginning of this section, can you think of what Kylo Ren's wants and needs might be in my rewritten story? I picture it as his want is for power and strength, but his need is to be accepted for who he is and feel he still matters as Ben Solo. Hopefully that came across in my rewrite, and if this doesn't make sense to you, maybe that means I kind of failed to communicate that. But either way, let me know in the comments. And that's the video for today. What do you all think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you enjoyed my rewrite of Kylo Ren, let me know, as I haven't done one of these before, and I would definitely like to do more if it's something you all enjoyed. Other than that, as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see more, please do like and subscribe, as it does help me and the channel out. And if you really enjoyed the video and really want to support the channel, why not check out the link in the description to buy me a coffee? Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.